People are talking live from San Francisco. Today, actor Richard Chamberlain, plus gardener Albert Wilson.
Went on a river trip on the Tuolumne River. What, you were doing thornbirds at the time. You were filming thornbirds.
Yes,
rather.
this was a year ago.
Yeah.
And some friends of mine had got involved in this river trip, and I went with them for 3 days. And I had been on rivers before. I'd been on the Rogue and the Salmon, and I've been all over the world, and I've seen a lot of things. But the Tuolumne is just the most amazing place.
Why don't we do, we have a map, and it will show where the Tuolumne is, near Yosemite, in here in California. There it is. You can just get an idea in relationship to San Francisco and all.
Yes.
The Tuolumne runs behind and through the
Runs
Yosemite.
right out of Yosemite.
Yeah, so that's the Tuolumne River. What's about 87 miles long, 83,
I think
something
so.
like that.
And
miles long.
a great deal of it is dammed at the top. It's a very hard-working river.
And hard-working, you mean?
It provides a great deal of
It has like
electricity.
5 dams already, so it's doing a lot of work.
Yes, it provides a great deal of electricity, it provides a great deal of irrigation, etc. But there are 28 miles left of this amazing wild river with the best trout fishing in the world and the best whitewater in California, and wonderful family camps, and it's remarkably, especially beautiful and
We can see some of the activity and recreation that goes on. Now, is this the kind of river rafting you were doing when you were there?
Yes. On the Rogue, we were in individual boats. It's really hairy at the top. Like,
What do you put, about
and then it
12
has
people in there?
Yeah, no, there were 4 people and a guide in our boats. This is one of the camps. They're very old camps. They've been used for years and years and years by families.
So people go up there and camp and stay all night and all?
Yes, yes.
How long were you there?
3 days.
And you just fell in love with it?
Absolutely in love. And you camp at night along in these wonderful tributaries, and you can hike up, and there are these wonderful pools and waterfalls and more pools and more waterfalls. And that would all be buried.
Well, what the problem is, some people do not see it as a problem. Some people, like you, see it as a problem. They want to build dam number 6.
And 7 and 8, I believe.
And what we're going to do is we're going to go away for a couple of minutes. We'll come back, and as far as you know, what will happen if that dam is built, and we'll be talking about it, see what effects it will have in the Tuolumne River. Be right back. Stay tuned. And you're very concerned about this dam they want to build on the Tuolumne River. In your opinion, as you view it, what would happen if it is built?
Well, it would inundate the extraordinary trout fisheries. It would bury at least one of the camps. It would ruin the whitewater. It would flood the extraordinary environment around the river.
It would do an entire covering of like 27 miles of this.
It would destroy it. I can't say exactly how many miles. How many miles, John?
21 miles.
21 miles.
Would be
Flooded or dried up.
Yeah.
You talked in front of Congress. You went back and testified.
Yes, I did. There was a committee, a Senate committee, hearing concerning the wilderness legislation that's pending. And I was quite terrified, actually. But I feel so strongly about the river. I did testify in front of Senator Wallop and Senator Wilson.
How can a Richard Chamberlain be, terrified to
Well, I'll tell you,
in front of Congress?
I wasn't playing a part. I wasn't making a kind of showbiz appearance. I was just being myself. And I was with the big guys there. These people shape the world.
You said, actually, you were kind of in awe. I mean, there's Senator Kennedy there, all these people you see on TV and read about.
Yes, yes. And I had never done anything like that before, and I found my heart racing. You know, as the time came up, my mouth went dry, my palms got all wet. And but it was a great moment. I stumbled over some words. I was reading it, and I looked up to Senator Wallop, and he looked like a father looking at his kid who had just muffed to play in a little league game. He was kind of going, "Come on, you can do it." It was really nice.
John is in our audience. John, you are the executive director of the Tuolumne River Trust.
Yes.
And this is, you're fighting, in essence, the dam being built, correct?
That's right. What we're trying to do is to assure that the recommendation of the National Park Service and National Forest Service, who did a 4-year study of the river and concluded that it's, quote, so outstandingly remarkable that its highest and best public use should be preserved for its recreational value and natural values.
What is the reason they want to build the dam?
Okay, the choice from our point of view is quite simple. It's, as Richard says, this is a publicly owned river, whether it will continue to provide something for everyone, being partially developed and yet still having these outstanding recreational natural values, or whether through these dams we'll sacrifice it to be totally developed for one use, so that two small but very politically powerful irrigation districts can get the exclusive use of the river. Yeah. And they want it for hydroelectricity. It should be pointed out, the flood control is in place on this river. There's no new irrigation or domestic water supply to be produced by these projects.
And we're talking about the Turlock Irrigation District, the Modesto Irrigation District, and the Public Utilities Commission.
No, we're not talking about the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission now. San Francisco is unanimously on record with Mayor Feinstein and all 11 members of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors supporting wild and scenic protection for the river. The San Francisco PUC is on the permit for the dam, but since this new policy has been established, they are not participating in the studies or spending any money.
All right, so originally the PUC was in on this, and then the City of San Francisco government is against. Now, Olive, you are the public information officer for the irrigation districts.
Right. Number one, it's incorrect that there is no new water yield. There'll be 3.9 billion gallons of new water, which is reserved for Tuolumne County's domestic water use. They are very short of water. They get no benefit as San Francisco currently uses the river. And this water is reserved for their use.
Where will most of if the dam was built, where will most of that water go?
All of the water will go to Tuolumne County.
None of it. How about for hydroelectric power?
Well, it will generate hydroelectric power, but the new water yield.
And that power will go, for the most part, where?
The power, as it's presently set up, there are three partners because all three districts, San Francisco, Turlock, and Modesto, are on the project partnership.
Is PUC, our San Francisco PUC, actively involved in this?
No, not at the moment, but they are not withdrawing either.
Where will the hydroelectric power go from this dam?
It will go down into the two districts, or to San Francisco. A portion will go to San Francisco if San Francisco decides to participate.
And the two districts are Tuolumne?
No, our Turlock Irrigation District and Modesto Irrigation District.
How will there be any benefit to Southern California from this?
Well, there is a benefit statewide, yes, absolutely. Every time a project like this comes online, it allows more of the power in the grid system to be used elsewhere. And the point of fact is that both the Department of Energy, the Federal Department of Energy, and the California Energy Commission know that we're coming up on a very serious energy shortfall.
Now, if there is an energy shortage and there's going to be a problem, and we need the water and we need the power, how do you react to that?
Well, John can give you much more specific answers to that than I.
But what's your gut reaction? I don't need specifics necessarily, but...
Well, as the situation has been presented to me, the power will be in Modesto and those areas will contribute more to urbanization of that area and the encroachment on agricultural use. That the water is an extremely small... John can tell you, can elaborate that.
When I said no domestic or irrigation water, the new water amounts to less than 1% of the amount of water already produced by the river. And I say no irrigation or domestic because it would be produced at $105 an acre foot, where agriculture now pays about $3.50 an acre foot, and the water would be at such a low elevation in Tuolumne County that their water need is higher elevation, and to pump it up there would make it prohibitive for that portion of the county that's in the greatest...
Olive, I'm going to have to go away here for a second, but let me present a couple of questions to you for you to think about while we're in a commercial break. Some people, I guess, are saying we're taking a public river that already has 5 dams on it, that is really doing its job, and we could be ruining it strictly for profit. We'll be back and get her reaction in a moment. Stay tuned. We're discussing his efforts to save the Tuolumne River from having another dam built on it. It has 5 already. Bonnie, you had a question.
Actually, it's more of a comment. I have seen other situations that have occurred with rivers like the Stanislaus and different issues like that. And my experience out of most of it has been that it's been out of profit, and that we, the public, lose. I mean, we really lose. I think that the wildlife is far more important to us at this point. And so it's more of a comment, but I'm very frustrated, you know.
I would agree with you. I think all circumstances have to be taken into consideration, but the value of the Tuolumne for me wasn't just having a good time.
Yeah.
It was getting away from the kind of hubbub and artificiality of my normal life in the city and getting close again to the very source of, well, of nature and what made us all.
Yeah.
And to lose those values, to just wipe them out for a relatively small economic gain, seems to me almost criminal.
Let's talk about that economic gain and the profits. Olive?
Yeah, I'd kind of like to respond to what I'm hearing. What we're hearing categorized here is that people, the two irrigation districts specifically, are because they want to be able to serve their consumers in the Central Valley somehow evil. And I really think that is not a fair categorization. They are not. They are very good public utility districts who have looked for other resources, who have attempted to find other resources. Let's just talk about that. You cannot cite new nuclear plants in the state of California. We all recognize that and know that. Coal is really a suspicious generating tool. We all have heard about the acid rain back east and those things. Oil is for a large part imported, it's foreign. We are at the mercy of the generating nations. We could have a shortage any time, Iran, Iraq, all of those things. Solar is still not capable of picking up the slack. We all hope it will be someday. People have suggested using manure pits to generate energy. That's something else in its infancy, and it brings other problems as well. There are a whole range of items. Conservation is practiced in the two districts.
Okay, Olive, let me go to Fran, but she has a question for you, and
Sure.
see what you have to say. Fran?
When these dams are built, is there any attempt made to relocate the animal life, or are they just out and out murdered?
Richard?
Well, my area of expertise is fish, actually, but I know something about wildlife mitigation. All attempts historically to relocate wildlife that have been dislocated by virtue of some public work of some kind have been unsuccessful, and the reason is simple. All of the available habitat off-site of the project is already filled up with habitat, with animals that are living there, so there's no place for these animals to go. They disappear.
So they're killed.
They die.
They die. They can't survive.
They can't survive.
Now, Olive?
Well, I want to tell you that we are in, let's go back and review the history a little bit, because I think it's important for your audience. This project was first conceived in 1976. Congress, in response, decided to study the river. There was a recommendation to make it wild and scenic. Congress was given 3 years in which to act, during which time there was a moratorium placed on development on the river. Congress failed to act during that time, for whatever reasons. The districts who had patiently waited through the entire process, and we are a nation of laws and procedures, are now given the opportunity, because they have a preliminary permit, which lasts for another 3 years, during which time all of the questions that are being discussed today have to be addressed and considered. There is no guarantee that even in this permit process those dams will be built. We may discover that it is impossible to build the dams because it does do too much environmental damage.
There is a regulatory commission that
Absolutely.
would approve this or disapprove the dam.
That's right.
Has this commission ever in its history not approved a dam being built?
I don't know the answer.
One.
Yes.
Right,
How many
so-
dams are there in this country?
Thousands.
There are over 1,200 major dams in California.
In
This-
California, and
this-
only one dam in the entire country has ever been
By this
disapproved.
commission. This commission, in its almost 50 years, has approved over 900 dams. They have denied one on environmental grounds back in 1953. That's why we know that federal bureaucracy will not make the right decision. Congress must.
Okay, I got to go away again for a couple of minutes. We'll be right back. We didn't get to talk much to you. Richard Chamberlain is fighting to save another dam from being built on the Tuolumne River. He is with us this morning. But, John, you had a comment to make. You are for the dam.
Yes, I represent a heavy construction union, the operating engineers. We currently are suffering from as much as 30% unemployment, many of which of our members have been unemployed for as long as a year at one given point. This project offers 2,000 jobs on-site and additional 8,000 jobs off-site in the service industry, the material dealers and such. And it's kind of difficult for our membership to understand how we can totally eliminate the possibility of 10,000 jobs, of 10,000 paychecks every week without all of economic studies, without the feasibility studies being completed.
Jody, you're really shaking your head.
That doesn't justify taking away the wilderness. That just, to me, is
I think someone who's been out of work for as much as a year or 18 months and cannot provide for their family, cannot provide to put their kids in school or provide shoes or bread on the table, the wilderness argument does not really carry that much weight.
Mike?
I'd like to respond to Olive's points about the Modesto and Turlock districts. It's not that they're being portrayed as evil, but they're being portrayed as single purpose. They want to get as much water and power as they can as cheaply as possible. Right now, they are encouraging their members to engage in flood irrigation, which is very water intensive and wasteful. It consumes a lot of power. If they don't build this dam, they have to pay more for their power, which gives them a better incentive to conserve. Furthermore, the dam itself will only be used, the dams and the power they generate would only occur during peak hours in the daytime for about 1/4 of their total capacity. During that time, it's needed primarily to run air conditioners in houses in the valley. In our view, to have that single-purpose focus on a river as precious as this one, to have no recreational values in mind is wrong. And to give you some sense of their attitude toward the recreational values, the man they hired as the director of the project has referred to the Tuolumne River as a Disneyland ride.
Dick.
Yes, I'd like to comment on some of this also. I'm the president of the Western River Guides Association, which is an organization of over 100 river guides and outfitters in 11 western states. I've been running rivers professionally for 14 years now, and I've run all the major rivers of the West. And I know, and everybody in my business knows, that the Tuolumne River is one of the 3 or 4 best, top quality whitewater rivers in the United States.
That's right.
The Tuolumne is spoken of right alongside the Colorado through the Grand Canyon and the Middle Fork of the Salmon in Idaho. It's unparalleled for whitewater. Over the 17 or 18 miles that we run, you do not find consistently better rapids anywhere in the United States.
Now, in fairness to John, although I know we're not comparing apples and apples, you as head of a White River Rafting Association, you have some profit motive here too.
I suspect I do, sure. I'm not afraid of profit either.
I think it's important maybe we do point that out. Jan, you had a comment.
Yes, I was wondering if, when we mentioned alternatives earlier, if there had been any thought given to the fact that as Californians or Americans, we could learn to do with a little less. I'm not saying without, but just with less. Maybe we don't have
Do you want to, I know you haven't got all the facts on this particular thing, but the alternatives that
Well,
have
there
been
are
talked about to
alternative
maybe the dam.
proposals. If it were wild and scenic, the area that's immediately concerned with the river, the Tuolumne area, could build some dams on some of the tributaries and provide a good deal of economic.
Olive says no.
That's unclear.
Is that unclear?
That is unclear.
John?
Very unclear.
Well, they have submitted proposals, and the conservation community supports development on the tributaries because we're not opposed to further development as long as it's compatible with the existing uses and values. But in terms of conservation, a very good point, a recent citizen study in Modesto concluded that they could meet 80% of their additional energy need until 1994, which is when these dams might be constructed, through conservation. Because right now, there's a lot of inefficient use of energy, as someone points out.
What's a citizen study?
Citizens Task Force study appointed by the Modesto Irrigation District.
Are you familiar with that task force, Olive?
I want to point out to you that Modesto has a very fine conservation program. You know, we here in San Francisco are really lucky. We don't need air conditioners. Anyone that's lived up in 105 temperatures in the valley knows what air
I lived in
conditioning
Merced
means.
for
right.
2
So
years.
you know.
I do know that.
Okay, they have a program right now that they call STEP, consumers have in their homes a device which is controlled by Modesto at a central location that turns off the irrigation, the
air conditioning.
Yeah, the air conditioning systems for certain periods of hours during peak use.
Yes?
Instead of having people turn off their air conditioners during their peak hour, why don't these businesses that have their street signs shut them off? Why isn't that being used as a conservation instead of taking away this river and just having these signs when you drive down the middle of the night and you see all these signs all over the place and the businesses aren't open?
Well, there are a lot of ways to conserve, and when we have had water problems, Americans did rally to it and turned off building lights and all. We basically wanted to present the problem this morning. Some people see it as a problem, of course, and others don't. Are you going to continue to pursue not only Tuolumne, but as a wilderness, something you're going to really become involved in?
I hope so. I hope so. I feel that in each individual case I'd have to become very well informed. It's not something that I want to run into just emotionally or anything. All these points have to be very seriously considered.
Well, if you support the not building of a dam on the Tuolumne River, you can contact the Tuolumne River Preservation Trust at Fort Mason in San Francisco, 94123. You can write your congressperson also if you're either pro or con what is happening on the Tuolumne River and give your opinions and your views. Thank you for being with me this morning. Nice hand.